It's time for Class Racing Today, the podcast for the NHRA class racing fan. It's time for another episode of Class Racing Today. ClassRacingToday.com, ClassRacingToday@gmail.com for any comments, questions, or just to say hi. And or if you want to help sponsor the show and make it even better, don't forget to do that. Say hi. Bobby and Brian join me, and we do some, who knows, weird racing talk. Today, though, is a little bit different, only because Brian claims to have a real job, and he supposedly has work to do. So Bobby is here. Bobby, how are you?
Doing well, Craig.
Awesome.
How you doing, buddy?
Fantastic. Brian's away, so are we like the cats playing? Is that how that works?
It means we can break the rules.
That's right. So what rules were we breaking today?
I have no idea. I don't know. Brian's as straight as an arrow, so
nice. Totally, yeah.
And so am I.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely no problem with that. You are I think wading into some deeper water today. Talk about this a little bit.
Well, I am a fan of the class that our guest runs today. I watch it all the time. I know it's a hard class to be in, very competitive. Looks like they're very fun to drive, looks very expensive, but I don't know much else about the class, and I want to learn a little bit today. So that is why I brought on last year's U.S. Nationals Hemi Shootout champion, Mr. Steven Yantus, who drives a super stock A Hemi 1968 Plymouth Barracuda. And if I have to choose between the Barracuda and the Dart, I don't know. I kind of like the body of the Barracuda a little better. Just always have since I was a kid. I like that, that, I guess, fastback approach. Excuse me. I always wanted a 67 or 68 Mustang fastback, and maybe in my next life I'll get one. But until then, I'm just going to, watch AH class shootouts and wish that I was driving one of them.
So Brian's not here, so I'll have to play his role. You just have to stay into the Ford world. Is that it? No opportunity to get out of that.
I'm locked in right now. I'm locked in. Unless somebody wants to buy my cars and NHRA wants to restore stock and super stock to absolute greatness where it's a great return on investment, I'm probably just going to stay put where I am right now.
That's reasonable, I guess.
Right? But that's our job. We're trying to restore stock and super stock to its greatness. That's why we started this podcast in the first place.
That's right.
We're putting us back on the map. Right?
Yes.
All of our millions of viewers, all you millions of viewers out there, we're putting stock and super stock back on the map.
That's right.
All right. So first off, let's introduce our guest again, Mr. Steven Yantus. Steven, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. Another rainy day in New Jersey. Wishing I was headed to Florida with, a lot of my D1 counterparts.
Well, it's a little overcast today, but it's supposed to be high as 77. So I'm in shorts today.
Go screw yourself. Thank you. All right. And that's all for today.
Wow.
All right. So Steven, you are in the Charleston area of South Carolina, correct?
That is correct. Charleston, South Carolina.
Charleston, South Carolina. 35 years old, but you were originally from Pennsylvania, which I did not know.
Yep, I spent 18 years there, and I lived a quarter mile away from where the terrorists put that plane down, so I got a great landmark to where I used to live.
Oh, my goodness. Right. What is the name of that town?
Shanksville,
Pennsylvania, right. Near Pittsburgh, kind of, right?
It's between Pittsburgh and Hershey, and it's kind of in the middle.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man. United 93, I believe, was the plane.
Flight 93. Yep.
Terrible. But man, have you visited that area since this happened? Since 9/11?
Well, when I was younger, I did, but now they got a bunch of monuments and stuff up there, and I have not seen it since all that has happened. But a year after it happened, where there's just a hole and stuff, and there wasn't really anything there other than what the people put up. That's what I saw.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. I've never been there. I've been to New York. I've been to the Twin Towers site a couple of times, but never been to the Pentagon and have never been to Shanksville. So something I'll have to do one of these years. Let's get started here. So first of all, we actually had a Division 4 race in Bella Rose, Louisiana at No Problem Raceway. Lots of action this weekend. I was a little disappointed it wasn't on NHRA TV because especially in the beginning of the year when there's only like one race to hone in on, and they were running stock class eliminations. Like, this was right in my wheelhouse. It was raining here all weekend. Just wanted to plop on the couch and watch this race. And of course it wasn't on there. So I heard it was bad bandwidth at that track. It's in the middle of nowhere, as a lot of tracks are. And just couldn't watch it. So I had to just follow along, see who was posting videos on Facebook, and see what was up on there. Let's go through a couple of the winners. In stock, we had Wes Neely in a J stock automatic 89 Firebird. And he beat Drew Whalen in a B stock automatic 98 Firebird. So we had an all Pontiac final. Gotta love the Pontiacs. Firebird final. And Wes Neely in a J stocker. Now, like, this guy could have just, he might have pulled like a Brian Anderson move and put 11:55 on his window at 9 o'clock in the morning and never took it off, because this guy just went, I think he just went 11:55 or like 11:54.8 all day. So I got to find out what his tune is all about and talk to that guy. Wes Neely, congratulations. Super stock. We had Mr. Pestman, I believe, the Exterminator. He should put that on the side of his car, the Exterminator. Jeremy Duncan, Super Stock D Automatic 69 Camaro. And he took the win over one of the Emmons, Harvey Emmons, in a GTF Automatic 05 Cavalier. Jeremy Duncan was cutting some good lights. He was driving some good races there. So congrats to him. He's been around. He's a good driver. Again, one of the guys I don't want to have to race. I say that about everybody that that we talk about, though. I don't want to have to race that person. And then we ran stock class eliminations. All right, so let me run down these names real quick just to give them their, give them what NHRA probably won't give. AA stock automatic class winner Brenda Grubbs in a 69 Camaro. A stock automatic Sam Porceau, probably butchering the name. He's in a 99 Camaro. B stock automatic Don Pellequino in a 2000 Corvette. I believe he was number one qualifier also, like 114 under. D stock automatic Hayden Trumbull, 71 Chevelle. F stock automatic Bill Bagley, 73 Duster. Factory stock A, good friend of mine, Anthony Bongiovanni in a 2010 Cobra Jet. Factory stock B, PB Candies in a 2020 Dodge, I believe it's Dodge Challenger. I'm not sure. It just said 20 Dodge on there, and I never got to see a picture of his car. So way to go, PB Candies. G stock automatic, the killer from down south, Jimmy Hidalgo, 91 Corvette, the country dog. H stock automatic, Dempsey Pendarvis, a 2010 Challenger. I stock automatic, the fastest 70-something Nova in the country. There's like mid to late 70 Novas. Jim Marshall. J stock automatic was Wes Neely, so he won class and won the race. Way to go, buddy. L stock automatic, Sammy Laporte, 87 Firebird. And in the stick combo, we had an N stick, Jamie Greening, 96 S10 pickup truck. The automatic combo, Jimmy Hidalgo and his 04 GTO. I believe that's E stock automatic. He's the country puppy. And factory stock combo was Brett Candies in a 13 Copo. All right. Way to go, everybody that won class. Congratulations. Woo! I'm out of breath. All right. Let's get back to Mr. Steven Yantus.
I'm here.
He's here. He's the 2020 champ, Indy, U.S. Nationals, Hemi Shootout. He ended little Jimmy Daniels' 4-year run. I believe Jimmy Daniels won this 2016, 17, 18, and 19. I don't think Jimmy Daniels ever even lost a round since he's been running the Hemi Shootout.
18 rounds of competition when he raced Teuton.
18 rounds in a row, and then he lost first round to Joe Teuton. I think it was a close race, 8:58 to an 8:60 were the times.
Yep. So
can't argue. Jimmy Daniels, he's got power. Big Jim Daniels, and I believe they are running. I know they're running out of the Barton camp, so they are powered by Ray Barton. Steven, who powers your stuff? Who builds your engines?
Charlie Westcott out of Parma, Michigan.
Charlie Westcott out of Parma, Michigan. He and his father used to run this AH category. I guess they haven't run it in what, 5 or 6 years at least.
2014, he retired after he won it.
Okay, so 2014. So we're going on 7 years now. And they always ran, Militia I think the one car had Jessel on the side of it, but they go by, or the name of their business is Militia Racing Products or something.
Militia Racing Products, yep. Wayne Jessel and Charlie are really good friends, and Wayne was a big contributor to the Jessel system and stuff that's on these engines. And it said Jessel test vehicle on the side of Charlie's car, which was the Warfish. And then Charlie's dad, which is Charlie Sr., he ran the tan 68 Barracuda, and it was called Fish Tank.
Okay. All right. Now your car, the green and white car that you run, that you won in, is an original 68 Hemi factory Hemi Barracuda, correct?
Yes. I mean, it's as far as the history goes, that's a yes and no thing. Some people are like yes, some people are no, but it should have been one of the original 57. Harold Dutton with the drag hag is the person that originally owned it, and we believe it to be that car. So it has the VIN number and everything on it. It's got the trunk VIN number in the trunk from Hearst. It's got the numbers on it to say that it is. Right,
and it's, I believe, a B029 code and fiberglass lightened fenders, right, and hood and things like that.
The B029s and I think the Darts are LO29s. They all came with fiberglass front hood, fenders. Came with lightened glass. Didn't come with any window mechanisms. All the window mechanisms stuff we're taking out of the doors. It had a seat belt that pulled the window up and it snapped in to hold the glass, up. Radio delete, heater delete. Came with, the A990 seats and the lighting brackets and stuff on it.
No back seat, right? They took the back seat out. They put
yep, and they came with
bucket seats in or something.
Yep, and they came with just regular 14-inch steel wheels and no paint on the car because they knew that a gallon of paint was 8 pounds and that you were going to change it anyways. They knew that you were going to change the wheels and tires on it and make the rear end narrow. And those are some of the most iconic pictures that I love to watch and see about these cars, like them rolling out of the factory and going on a trailer on a station wagon. And they got the whole family there, and Dad's loading this thing up, and it's just bare primer. And his wife's just sitting there, just shaking her head, going, "Why would you do this?" And and we get the same look from our wives today when they go out to the garage, and you have all this stuff sitting around. You're like, "Why?" But you can't explain that to people that don't get it.
Yeah, no. I'm just a fan of these cars, and I do love the way they were thinking back in 1968. I just wish I could have been around back then to see these cars in action. And Sox and Martin, and a good buddy of mine, Evan Smith, was actually driving the Sox and Martin car, not racing it, but he was driving it around in a parking lot recently, where it's being stored, and that was really cool. Things sounded amazing still. And now these cars, the Barracudas, I could be way off on this, but I thought the Barracudas all came with stick shift 4-speeds when they made these cars. Is that true or false?
False. They came with automatics and sticks, just like the Darts did.
Did they? Okay. So that's why you're allowed to run, all right, autos and sticks. Now, is the stick shift, is there a weight break difference, horsepower difference, something along the lines of that?
When they first started, there was a weight break in the stick car. But as today sits, automatics and stick shift cars are both 3,200 pounds, factored off of a 505, 426 505.
Okay, so no weight benefit now. It's just whatever helps you get that power to the ground, you go with.
Well, yeah, and I guess it's personal preference. I mean, once you run a stick shift, I really don't think that anyone would ever want to go back to an automatic.
I agree with you there. Yep. So your car is a stick shift then, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you run it as an automatic before, or was it always a stick?
That car particularly, no. It started off as a manual transmission when I got it. When I first bought the car, we bought a cheaper 426 super stock engine off of Racing Junk. Had an old Dick Landy intake in it, and I sent it up to the blessed and gone Bob Reed. He was the guy that put the motor in it. He's the guy that told me about ram clutch when I first started. He told me G-force transmission over Liberty and Jericho. He kind of set the car up, and my first 3 or 4 or 8 passes were with that engine and Bob up there at the Dirty Mo at Mooresville Raceway, and that's that's a pretty cool memory that I get to have with an iconic guy in the class and in the sport. That he was sitting on the fence with his tight jeans, cowboy boots, and cigarettes, watching me make hits in it. And I got some old videos and stuff of it. And it's he says it's he was telling me when I first got in it. He says, I'm not going to tell you how to drive it. He says, because it's either you got it or you don't. So we're just going to see what happens.
Now, what kind of RPM are you guys turning these cars?
It's north of 9,300.
Man,
I know guys to been running 10,000. I know guys have been running 10.2. I've known guys. I mean, we've had a couple problems, and ours has hit 10,200 before.
wow. How many runs do you get out of valve springs? Like one weekend or what?
It really kind of goes off of how brave you are, So every run we come in, we go over the valve train and we look at it pretty meticulously and check over things and stuff like that. But I'd say that if you wanted to be conservative, I'd say 50 runs.
Wow, that's
at 25,
about 40 more than I was thinking.
At 25, I start getting worried.
Do you guys? I mean, after you make a run, and I don't know how much time they give you at I don't know, at the shootout at Indy or so. I mean, are you pulling valve covers off after every run and just at least a visual inspection? I would imagine, right?
Every pass that we make when we're running when we're in shootout mode, where the car is at its break point, every pass where it's on kill 100% every run. Every pass that it comes in, we go in, we pull the valve covers, we'll run the valve train, look for any anomalies in it. We'll check everything as far as we can see on the top side of the head. Go to the race pack, look at our data, and I'll make a clutch adjustment every round, whether I just tighten things up a little bit and reset gaps and stuff like that, or I go in and I make a little bit of changes. But typically when you're in shootout mode, you're making a slight change every pass just to try to keep on top of it, but then try just to give yourself just a little bit of edge going into it.
See, my dad would have been great for those shootout modes. He loves making little changes after every run, and we're supposed to be in bracket mode. So
that's funny because my dad's the total opposite. Every time we come in, he's like, I got to take this stupid floor out of this car. I'm like, it's your only job you got right now. So it's not that bad.
Yep. Oh man. So are you the kind of guy that will run regular races that don't have Hemi shootouts? Are you just a shootout, I want to go as fast as I can kind of guy? Or do you ever try to win the eliminator also?
With the car that we have in shootout mode, our stick car, I don't want to do that. Me personally, I don't want to run eliminator with that car just because of how finicky it is. I mean, there's guys that go out there and run it and stuff like that, but I prefer to save my parts. But we bought Bucky Hess's Candy Cuda in 17, and that has a Westcott Hemi in it, and it's got an automatic in it. We're gonna do some bracket racing with that this year. We're gonna go to the big money Jason Lyon, Dave Connolly, Bo Butner races, and hit that. And then the owner of the cars is the one that's going to start running that car once he gets licensed and freshened up on how to run the car. He'll be there running that car at shootouts and stuff like that. And he'll run, the eliminator and stuff like that to get his feet wet and run classes and stuff like that, as well as the shootouts. But as far as to answer your question, my stick car will not run an eliminator.
Gotcha. Are you allowed to say who that owner is, or is he trying to remain anonymous right now?
Oh no, his name's Anthony Rhodes. He's my boss, my partner. He's a great guy, loves racing, and comes to every race that we go to. And we got the candy car, and we were going to sell the stick car just because we were going to try something different, because everybody else was kind of, when we first started, everybody was kind of getting wound down because the stick car takes a lot of work. I mean, you bring it in and you're, like you said, I'm making a clutch adjustment every time. And, so about 45 minutes to an hour and a half every round, you're trying to tweak it and caress it and massage it and love on it, make sure nothing's hurt so you can go out there and make another hit. So the guys were kind of getting tired just with the severity of how hard it was. But we raced an automatic, and it just wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy it. Now, don't get me wrong, still a Hemi, still pulls big 60, 70-foot wheel stands and stuff like that. I mean, it's cool, but launching off the trans brake button and then watching it shift itself and you're just hanging on to it, that just takes the fun and the fun out of the sport for me.
Dude, I agree 100%. So don't even get me started on that. They've heard me complain about that enough on this show. So
for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you're running a stick. What's it like going down the track in one of those things? I mean, how quick do those shifts come up on you? And you can't even, I would ask you to explain like how it feels, but it's like trying to, you just can't. But if you want to try, go ahead. What do you feel when you're in that car?
Well, I'll give you my best opinion of it. I mean, it's probably one of the more violent cars in the class because it's so heavy. It's got big torque, big horsepower. It's got a bunch of gear in it. You're launching the car. You launch the car off the chip, and the car leaves, and it's up in the air. And the shift light comes on. You bank second while it's still in the air. When everything's going right, it comes down and it lays itself down just so soft. About between the eighth and the start, you get in the third. Right before the 8th mile, you're in high gear, and it's the sound of those engines when they're turning over 90, 93, 95, 9600 RPM is just unreal. I mean, it never hurts my feelings when I first started, and even now to go out early and go down to the bottom end and listen, just go watch these guys race. It's in my class and listen to the cars and stuff, because an 800-pound motor slinging 9500 RPM down on the big end, there's nothing like it. I mean, and I've said it 1,000 times. I've raced the Top Sportsman Daytona. I've raced a 950 2,700-pound floating leaf spring car that drives like a sprint car. And between all those cars that you race, yeah, they're fun, and the Sportsman car was super fast. I mean, it would run 5 flat in the 8th, but there's just nothing like running one of these A cars. There just really isn't.
I know in my super stalker, and maybe you as well, when you're down at hitting that 1,000-foot marker and just waiting for that finish line to come up, and you hear that screaming engine, and you're just praying. Sometimes I'm just saying, "Oh God, just stay together."
I'm just waiting for the finish line so I can let off of it and go neutral and just shut it down and be like, okay, we're good.
So I know you said you're hitting the Bo Butner race. Are you going to hit that Class Racer Revival in St. Louis as well that Tyler Bohannon is having Easter weekend?
We'll see how the Butner race goes, because this is the first time that we're going to take an A car profile and try to bracket race with it. I mean, like 15 rounds a day bracket race.
Yeah.
So it'll be a test for all of us. We're really looking forward to seeing it. And but the motor combination, the training combination, we're just gonna go into it easy. We're gonna be testing here within about a week with the automatic card, and we're gonna make some rounds with it, try to round robin it, and see how hot it gets, and kind of just test a couple things that we're gonna be putting ourselves in those scenarios. And I'd rather do it now while I'm only 2 hours away than be down in Valdosta and something happens. So
Right.
we're gonna basically make a test facility of what we're gonna run into. So
Right.
we're gonna have chiller. We're gonna have the chiller and everything there. We're gonna bring it back. We're gonna try to hot lap it within like 15 minutes. Take it back up, make another hit, see what it does,
Oof.
and just learn from it, get experience. And I mean, because we're going from something where it's all out racing to now we really have to go back to our roots to where we started with racing Mopar races and Blankenship and Jeff Johnson races and stuff like that. Where we started to where we were really good bracket racers and getting our mentality out of just trying to run the guy down and being conservative.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're running in bracket mode, it doesn't have to be on kill all the time. You can do a couple things that will preserve the life of the motor. So, Steven, tell us how'd you get started in this? You're a young guy. You're only 35 years old. Was your dad a super stock racer? What's the deal?
My dad was never a super stock racer, but my dad has always been a Mopar guy. Him and his brother, which is Mike and Steve, they have a bunch of classic Mopars. Like my dad's got an original WO23 Hemi Cornet. So it's a factory 67 Cornet race car. His brother has an original Maxwell Edge Plymouth Savoy. They got GTX Hemi cars. They got 66 Plymouth Hemi cars. They got a 64, one of 7 known to existence now, or one of 4 known to existence now, with an aluminum hood scoop, but steel front end 64 Hemi car. And they raced those cars at like Pittsburgh Raceway and stuff back in the day, never at an NHRA level. Cars were running like 1090s, 1080s back then, in a Hemi class. And then I started getting into it, and I had a Dodge Dakota pickup, and I started racing that car. The truck would go like 1460, and I started bracket racing that and having a good time with it. And then I bought a 73 Duster and started racing it, and that's when we started really going into the Jeff Johnson, Charlie Blankenship races. Just weekend warrior stuff. We were out having fun, barbecuing, more hanging out with friends, and kind of just piddling around with race cars. And then when I moved to Charleston, South Carolina, I got up with Anthony, and he had a 66 Barracuda that had a 377 small block in it, and it turns 9,400 RPM, and it's got a 727 in it, and floater relief springs, and big gear, and you launch it. You're launching it at like 6,200 off the trans brake, and the car leaves so hard when the wheelie bars hit the ground, it sounds like a shotgun going off, and it goes left and right, and the car is all over the place, and it's fun. And then we got the Top Sportsman car when we were racing big money top bulb races. So we were going to the loose rocker stuff and going out to Piedmont and having fun with that, and enjoying going really fast in a short amount of time. Car was set up with a glide with a big gear in it, so it only run 1/8 mile. And then I saw that stick car for sale on the internet, and I went over to my boss. I said, if you want to try something fun, I said, it's going to be expensive and it's going to be hard. I said, but I've never done it, but it's the epitome of super stock racing. I said, if you want to get into NHRA racing, I said, this is what we're going to do. And he bought it, and he's like, let's go. So we went up to Tennessee. We made a deal with Don Hutton, and we bought the car. We brought it back here. It went to Bob Reed's, and we kind of got everything to where it would run and go down the track, but the car would never really rotate. We could never get the car on the back tires. And, bless Bob Reed's heart, he's old school racing. So, I mean, we went all the way down to 90-10 shocks in the front and just trying to simplify the game to get the car to rotate, which is completely different from where we are now with the shock technology and all that stuff. So we messed with it for a little bit, and then at that point in time, it only had an 850 cage in it. So then we sent it up to John Holtz and said, hey, let's weigh the car, balance the car, let's put really good shocks on it, let's get a 750 cage on it. And I got a motor from David Collette, which he runs super stock and stuff like that. And that was a motor that was in the Dixie Hemi that crashed. And Anthony owns that car too, and it's sitting in the garage now with new roof, quarter panels, everything on it. It's going to go up to Ken Cures and get freshened up on the cage. But We put that motor in the stick car. It started running pretty decent. First race we ever went to was at the Sport Nationals in 2016, and we were late in there. I don't know, we had a problem with something, and we had to go straight into first round. So I went straight up against first round against Doug Fazalor, and I went like 884. He went 887, and 884. He went 887, and I lost on a whole shot. He beat me on the light. I'm gonna have to plug in here and get out of my head.
So going right into first round, and it's still a close race. That's, you think the light would shine on you right there, and you would have a little bit of good fortune, but I guess that just wasn't the case, as has been with me many times.
No, it wasn't. But we were in really good spirits about it because it's the first time that I ever made a quarter-mile pass in the car. We got into the 150s. Everything was good. We put the car back in the trailer. Nothing was broke. It was a win for us. So then after that, and he floated around with a couple of different engine builders. We went with Automotor off of Steve Abear, and that was a Charlie Westcott Rare Morrison hybrid. It was originally a Charlie motor, and then he sent it to Rare, and that motor was really working well for us. That's the motor that when we went to Gainesville, we went our first 30 with it. We went 838 at 160 with a 6 or a 3. It was the first time that we went 160 mile an hour club. And there's only a handful of guys in the class that have been 160. As far as that goes, as far as the super stock cars go in our class. And then we went and tried to go with an engine builder from Texas, and that didn't really pan out for us, and we didn't have very good luck with that. And throughout this whole process, I was asking Charlie Westcott to build my engine. Since the moment me and Bob were putting the car together, I was asking Charlie to build me an engine. And he just kept on telling me, you need to stop, get a new hobby. So this stop. He says, you don't need to be doing this to yourself. And 5 years down the road, I asked him, and a bunch of things were going on with COVID and business and stuff like that. And I got him on a good day, and he said, I'll build you an engine. So kind of rest is history from there. We went to Martin and tested it, and we tested it in Martin, and the last pass we did, it went a 47. We said, put it in the trailer. Went down to Indy, pulled it off the trailer, went a 47. Qualified there. We were number 1. And from that point on, it was kind of on a tear. The car was, round 1 was a 41. And, well, we ran round 2 was a 45. But the top alcohol cars ran right before us. And me personally, I feel that they just kind of put like a little haze over the track when they run, and the car kind of fell off a little bit and went a 45. But after that, it was consecutive, 41, 45, 41, 41. And it was in bracket mode, which is really hard to do with what we were managing with. And to come out and be the only car in the 40s and to go out and do what we did and dominate like we do, that's a sheer testimony to Charlie Westcott of Melissa Racing Products. I mean, that's how he does things. That's his milieu, and he did it in great fashion and gave us the best equipment to do it.
Excellent. I'm trying to find out what's the quickest one of these cars has ever gone, and I'm looking at the NHRA record books right now, but it doesn't have anything because nothing's been done recently, like an actual record been set. Do you have any idea what the quickest pass in one of these cars is right now to beat?
Well, I know in our class, Gary Wolkowitz, in my eyes, owns the record. What we're all trying to chase, he went 821 with a 9, and he did it at 159.
Wow.
Now, at that same race, Westcott was there as well. He went 822 at 162. So they were right there is where everyone's trying to come back to that. So, there might be, I think there's a new record out. Someone has it at like a 48 or something like that. I think Rich Locker owns it right now in our class at like a 48. But,
what track was that they both went in the 20s, low 20s?
That was at SGMP.
Okay.
But we, that was our goal after Indy, was to try to find some good air and to see what the car really was made of. But I'm a firm believer that record that Wolkowitz set is the record, and I'm not going to go. I've had the R on the car twice now, and I wasn't close to getting it, so I took it off. But I will not set a record until it beats the record.
You're right. Right. And you've gone 160. So for him to do it at 159, he must have really, that car must have been working off the starting line and
Oh
pulling
yeah, I
the
bet
eighth
you
mile.
his 60 foot was probably ungodly.
Yeah. My goodness. And Wolkowitz has a dart. I've had to race him before in an eliminator, and he's always fast. He's powered by Barton. What's going on with Westcott? He was trying to run pro stock. I remember that. Is he still into that? Is he still trying to do that? Do you know anything about that?
I guess as much as I know is the pro stock cars there. He's working on parts and pieces and developing things with it, but his business right now is his number one priority, and he's building it and growing it into a fantastic business. I mean, he does such great work. I mean, it's, you give him something and have him design it and turn it into something that's stock, and then he puts the Charlie twist on it, and it's just everything that guy does is really top notch stuff. I mean, he's a great guy.
Right. So when you say his business, his like engine building business, is that what he does for a living? Not that this is a Charlie Westcott interview, but I just want to know what he does.
He actually only builds a few engines. His
Okay.
main deal is he builds camshafts and stuff like that, special pieces. He does a lot of like custom valve train work, like he'll make retainers and stuff for valve springs. And you know, I think on YouTube he's got a couple things where if you look up Charlie Westcott, you could see him on the CNC machine. But he made a camshaft for a Buick and made the gear and everything for it. And just the way that he does that stuff, it's art. You know, if you could put it on a chain, you'd wear it as a necklace.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what these guys can do. You know, with these machines. Watching Travis Hess paint a car or a helmet or anything, like I watch those videos sometimes and I'm just like, oh my God, what if you go the brush like the wrong way or the wrong thing? Like, how are you going to fix it? You know, I get nervous watching.
And, you know, Travis's work with Bucky's that, you know, I mean, that kid is amazing.
Now, who, you bought one of Bucky's cars. So obviously you have one of his paint jobs. Is he painting your other car too, or what's going on there? Or is this? I see if.
Well,
Nice.
I guess you don't really know what's going on until you see it at the track.
Oh, all right. Okay. So you have the old Candy Cuda car, right? Is
Yes,
that the
I
one that
do.
you said you have? All right.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the car that Bucky? I know he hit the wall with a car at
Yeah,
Indy.
the car, he hit the car with the wall with, and him and Travis went back and he fixed it. And that just goes to show his ability, you know, to be able to take the car that has that much work into it, to where it's that much pinstriping and fish scales and art, and to be able to take a new slate and blend it all into it and to make it perfect again. I mean, that's just a sheer testimony to what those guys do.
Oh, my goodness, I know, unbelievable. How I feel like it's something you have to be born with, because I can't even draw stick figures. Like, I was the worst in art class when I was in school. It was embarrassing. So,
Oh, I mean,
my goodness.
I can work on things. I'm better with a wrench than a pencil.
than a pencil or a paintbrush. Yep.
That's right.
Yep. So I wanted to ask you, like, so your first real race then is aside from maybe some testing, you said you're going to go to the Bo Butner race, right? So you're not going to be in Gainesville this year. What's the rest of your schedule? Like, what are you planning to hit this year?
It really just depends. You know, we're kind of waiting on some things to arrive at our shop, and that'll determine some things on the stick shift side of it. But I mean, the automatic car, it's legal, so you know, we might run a couple races, grab some grade points, and do a little bit of testing with that car and have some fun. You know, it's a lot nicer when you don't have to worry about being in shootout mode. I guess it's kind of hard to explain because you're just running it all out, but it's just a lot less stress going to just an eliminator, and you just come back and check the valve train once or twice, and you don't have to worry about anything as far as the tranny or anything goes. It's just a lot easier on you, and get to come out and relax and have a little bit of fun and still get to go racing. So tentative schedule, testing in about a week, big money race coming up in March, end of March, and then we'll probably hit a couple D1, D2 races, grab some grade points there. I know that we'll be doing some testing with the stick car for sure. Our local track here, Darlington, it's probably one of the best places that you could go to test, and go out there and make a couple hits in the stick car and dial it in. And I'd like to take it to a couple not nationals, but just a couple divisional races just to get it out there and to run it and see what happens. But just really prepping for Indy. I mean, that's our biggest race of the year for that car. And yeah, I guess just have fun.
Now talk about the stress, right? Indy, you have to defend your championship now. You're going to have a bullseye on your back. Does that make you nervous at all or what?
No. I used to get nervous like that when I used to be big money racing and top ball racing against really good guys in that top sportsman car. And I just trained myself to kind of just let that go. You know, in any race, you have to beat yourself before you beat the other guy. So I kind of just go back to that mentality. I have a routine that I go through, and I just, stay calm. And as long as everything goes smooth, I mean, that helps me a lot too, is that when I'm in between rounds, I'm working on the car so much, it really takes your mind off everything else. You're just really deep into making sure that everything's perfect on the car. So it kind of takes the nervousness and jitters and anything that you get out of that. But oh yeah, I'd say that I probably got the biggest bullseye on my back right now. Everybody that's the top guy in the class is wanting to be the new king of Indy, so they'll be coming.
Oh, I bet. So I do find it cool though that you do your own maintenance, you adjust your own clutch. Like, it kind of reminds me of the old pro stock days where guys did everything. They drove, they tuned, they did everything on their cars, and even the fuel cars, like Ed the Ace McCullough, like drive the car, tune the car, get the data. That's kind of like going away with the younger generation that's come in into the pro classes, into everything. It's like they kind of fly in, drive the car, and go sign autographs while the crew just does everything,
And I guess that's the way that it's come. But if you would really sit back and look at things, I really believe that being at that level and doing the work yourself, I mean, you're in the car, you're the one feeling the car, you're the one working the car. No one knows more about the car than you should. So when you're looking at the graph and, you see where the car kind of broke traction a little bit, or it was chattering the tires, or, it was real laggy right here, I've run the car enough. I know when the car, I can just tell by the sound of the car that it's on a good pass. So I know going back into it, when I look at my data, I'm initially right off the start saying we got good stuff here, or vice versa. I'm going to say, well, the car shook so bad it about broke my back. Being the driver and working on it at the same time. Now, don't get me wrong, my crew helps me out a lot. Without those guys, it takes more than one person to run an A car. But me and Charlie talk a lot about where we're going and what the car's doing, and all of our guys that give us the great parts to do it. Pat Norsha with Ram Clutch, and Jessel and Charlie, and all the guys that make everything come together. And my crew, for 4.5 years, they came to these races and watched me get my butt whipped. We'd come back with our tail between our legs, and I just keep going back to the shop and trying to be faster. And I said, we're going racing. They're like, well, what you change? I changed a bunch of things. I don't know what's going to happen yet. We're going racing. and just keep on building off of that. And I mean, that just really dials you in to not only be a better driver, because when I work on my car, it makes me feel better in myself that I checked every nut and bolt. I checked every plug. I did this, I did that. And, you know, when you come back and you say the car's tight, then you know where to go to make it looser, or vice versa. You know, it's a lot more satisfaction to me. And when I started this class, I told Anthony, I said, if we're going to do it, I want to do it the hardest way possible. And that's buying a car that doesn't work, that no one could make work. You got it at a fire sale. You got it so cheap nobody wanted it. You know, and built our way up through finding the best people with engines and transmissions, and, you know, going through different rear gears and all that stuff. I mean, like, you know, Wayne Henson at Indy Gear, he makes, you know, with Gleason, they make the best rear gear that you could possibly make. I mean, a lot of pro stock guys use them, but I mean, it's just little tricks and traits that you use going out throughout the business that you learn, and, you know, the camaraderie and the friendship and everything you build. It's really made it really satisfying, really fun to do, you know, to come up and to be at the bottom and to work your way up at the top. And we run with a bunch of hard guys. I mean, none of these guys that are at the top are slouches. I mean, they've been running these cars since 2002, you know, even like with Jimmy and stuff like that. He's running the car now, but his dad's been campaigning that car. And then before that, David campaigned the car. So all those cars that are still in the class have been there for a long time. They have a lot of data. You know, they've really built them an empire as far as the AH world goes. And so to come into it, you know, 5 years and be where we are, I'm blessed and happy where we are.
Yeah, for sure. Very good when you put it that way. Definitely. I've seen a lot of those cars half my life. So you're absolutely right. When you win a Hemi shootout, I guess at Indy, is there teardown for you guys, or do they check anything after you win, or what's the deal?
They go into a pretty extensive teardown. I mean, when we won, Camelo was number 2, and as soon as we came down to the return road, they came out with torque seal, and it's this like real goopy, kind of like almost like a gelatin, but when it comes out of the gun, it hardens. So they put it over all your bolts, like all your carburetor bolts, all your intake bolts, all your pan bolts, because they say, okay, tear down at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then you go roll your stuff in the trailer. That way you can't change anything that would be illegal.
Right.
It would bring that torque seal, and they would see that the mark is broke loose on the nut and the intake and stuff like that. But we went into a 5.5-hour teardown. I mean, they didn't give us no slack, which is great, because, you know, going into it and winning the deal, I wanted everybody to know that, you know, we did it fair and square. We worked our butts off. We tried as hard as we could try, and everything was 100% legal as far as NHRA spec goes. So they pulled carburetors off, checked it, made us pull the head off, checked the valves, checked all that stuff, checked the combustion chamber, checked the volume in the cylinder. They pulled the piston and rod out, measured it, weighed it, went through the crank, make sure the crank wasn't a billet crank and that it wasn't, you know, had different weight in it and stuff like that where it shouldn't be. And when I got it back up, my motor was in a Tupperware container. So they definitely did their job to make sure that there was nothing illegal with that stuff that we did, which is perfect for NHRA. I want it to be that way. It's a hard class to do it, and I would want everybody to go through the same thing, just so everybody knows that there's a line drawn. So it was great.
Good. Yeah, I wasn't even aware of that. So the shootout, is that on a Saturday where they tore you down on Sunday, or was that on like Monday where they made you stay until Tuesday? How did that work?
They tore us down on Sunday, which was even harder because, you know, you win the biggest race of the year, so naturally you're going to go out and have a good night. So and us never winning a race period, and then winning the biggest race of the year, me and my boss were out till like 4:30 in the morning. and 7 o'clock, 6:30 rolls around, and I got to push the car into teardown at 7 o'clock, and they're up on top beating on stuff, and I'm down on the bottom trying to take the headers off, and I'm going, oh guys, can you keep it down? But the boss brought us steak and eggs over and a cup of coffee, and we leveled it out and got it done and passed it, and now we're moving on. And then we put the motor back together and went to Belrose in November and won there too.
Oh man, yeah. So that was great. I'm sure you didn't put it back together in that barn, right? You had to take that thing back to the shop and
I actually took it back up to Charlie's compound, and we went through it and seeing how everything was working, and then I brought it back.
Yeah, that's a better idea. I've always been fascinated by the guys that can put their motors back together in the barn and be ready for, first round or whatever. If you set a record on like a Thursday and be ready to race on Friday, it's pretty cool.
He could definitely do it. I'm not that comfortable at that state of mind, but if I got talked through it, I probably could, but I wouldn't like it. I see like a piece of dust off the rag, like down in the cylinder. I'm like, get that out of there. Get that out of there.
Yep. I feel you. Me too. I'm attention to detail and always just worried about missing a step or just overlooking something. I love having at least 2 sets of eyes on everything that we do. So that's why I'm glad when Pops is there with me. We are always, everybody's always double checking everything. Because I'm one of those guys that when I go to a race by myself, when I fire that car up to go up to the lanes, either I forgot to put fuel in it, or I forgot to check the air in the tires, or I forgot to, unplug the battery charger, or I forgot to plug the battery charger in to begin with. So I gotta have somebody there with me. I'm just that kind of person, because I'm always on the computer checking data, checking weather, doing all those things, and then I forget like the common sense, like you forgot to put air in the tires or check the tires. So
right, that's what's great about our crew. At any given time we could have 4 to 5 guys that come with us to enjoy it, and they're always, when they come, we set it straight when they're here. Like, okay, this is your job. You're going to be the battery charger guy. You're going to be the one putting the fuel in the car. You're going to be the one to make sure we got 12-pound air in it before we go up to the stage lane so we can take air out of it. It's little things like that, so everybody else can focus on all their jobs. Really ties everything together to make the crew work what it did. I mean, like I said, without those guys, we could have never won Indy.
Right, and that brings a level of comfort to the driver. Like, everybody's done everything. You don't have to worry about, I didn't forget anything, and that keeps you focused on what you need to do.
100%.
I really give props to people that go out there by themselves and do well. I mean, I know Fletcher's gone to many races by himself, and we all know how many races he's won. So to be able to do that, man. I went to one national event by myself, and it was like the worst experience of my life. I like blew the tires off on the starting line in my 12-second stalker, got back to the pits all angry, and then my tent wasn't secured down enough. That blew over and hit the car. I was like, oh my God, this get me out of here. Like, this is awful. So
I'm throwing it all in the trailer. I'm going home. I'm done.
Yes, it's terrible. This weekend can't get any worse. I shouldn't say that before the 9-hour drive home, but
it normally happens like that. It kind of escalates to worse things. Like when you have one bad problem, it just seems like it just follows itself.
Yep. Oh man. So, well, thanks for joining us today, Stephen. It's been a real pleasure having you on, and best of luck to you this year with your car. And I'm glad you're running the stick shift. So,
for sure, Bobby, Craig, thanks for everything. This is awesome.
Yeah, keep it up. Keep up the good work, and good luck this year. I know, like we said, you're gonna have a bullseye on your back. I know the Barton camp and whoever else, Camilla and Wolkowitz, and they're all going to be gunning for you. I'm sure they're working on their stuff. So I know you're working on yours. So best of luck, and we'll see how it goes for you.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the other end.
All right, and everyone out there, don't forget, visit us on Facebook, visit us on YouTube, Class Racing Today, and Instagram at Class Racing Today. All right, just want to throw that out there. And if anybody likes the shirt I'm wearing today, we're going to start getting these made. And I've been being asked by a lot of you listeners to, for shirts, hats, apparel, working on a website. Thanks for listening. Craig, take us away.
Yeah. Stephen, thanks a lot for hanging out, giving us your thoughts and how you got into this biz. Like Bobby said, classracingtoday.com, classracingtoday@gmail.com, Facebook. Join the conversation there. There's a lot going on. A lot of people chatting about what's going on. We're live today, if you weren't aware. We try to be either live or around the same time every week on Facebook. We are working on getting live on the YouTube as well. subscribe there. That's always a good thing. And Instagram. Bobby is great about getting content up there and keeping the racers that are out there in the industry, giving them a little bit of press time and showcasing them as we go through. Have a great time. Thanks so much for listening. For Bobby and Brian, who is working, have a great day. Thanks so much for listening. Be safe. See you out there on the track.